For this video, we're going to answer questions C through H for question 5. So the first question they ask you is, what is the equation for the members and the non-members? Remember, when we write an equation, we need our form y equals mx plus b, where m is our constant rate of change and our b is our y-intercept, our starting point. They asked us to put it in C and N format, so it would look something like this. But if you wrote it either way, it's not a big deal. So your first equation for your members, if we look at our members, the information, it says for every one movie, you're paying $2. So your constant rate of change is going to be 2x. And your starting point, you just use the table, so that'd be your b. And you do the similar process with finding the equation for your non-members. Remember, you want to use y equals mx plus b. So you want to find how much it costs per one movie, and you want to figure out what is the starting point. So what is the slope of each line in part C? Well, part C, your slope is your m. So based on your equation, your value for m is going to be your slope for your members and your non-members. So you got to look at those equations to determine what that slope is. So what information does the slope of each line represent about the membership and non-membership costs? So basically it's asking is, what are you changing by per movie? That's what they're asking. Well, what is changing? You're changing your cost per movie. For F, they ask you to explain how you could find slope from a table, a graph, and an equation. With a table, for the question we did earlier, we had to find the difference in y and the difference of x, or a ratio between the change in y and the change in x in order to find the slope, or the constant rate of change. For a graph, slope is equal to rise over run. So you find that by using 2 points. With an equation, I just explained earlier, you find your slope by looking at your equation. You look at this letter in particular, because this letter is your constant rate of change, which is your slope. So what information does the y-intercept of each line represent about the membership and non-membership costs? Well, the membership cost, if you look back to the story problem, what does it say about that 80? What does that 80 represent? And for the non-membership, look at whether or not you actually have a y-intercept. What does that y-intercept tell you about the story problem? Do non-members have to pay a yearly amount? And then for the last question, for what number of movies will the cost be the same for both members and non-members? Explain how you found your answer. Well, you could use your table to find when the cost is the same. And then you just look at how many movies it was when the costs were the same. And you can explain it that way by saying I used my table. Some might have used this strategy. They might have used both of their equations in order to find what number of movies it takes for both costs to be the same. So you're going to set both equations equal to each other. You had your first equation for your members, which was 2x plus 80, and you're going to set that equal to your other equation, the other equation you got for your non-members. And when you do that, you're going to solve for x. You're going to solve the equation. And when you solve for x, it tells you the number of movies. And when you substitute back in, that'll show you that the cost is going to be the same. So you could have used 2 strategies in order to find out when the cost is the same for what number of movies.